The night was cold. A soft wind rustled through the trees, carrying the distant murmurs of other contestants preparing for the final day of the competition. Inside the hostel, Amelia sat on her bed, staring at her reflection in the small mirror hung on the wall. Her swollen eyes, red from endless tears, stared back at her. Her round face, damp with sorrow, looked even fuller under the dim light. She ran her hands over her arms, her body trembling. Who am I fooling? She thought. I will never win. Her mind replayed every cruel word she had ever heard, her aunt's insult, her cousin's mockery, the jeers of her classmates, the whispers of disgust whenever she passed by. Fat. Ugly. Dumb. Worthless. She closed her eyes tightly, trying to drown out the voices, but they only grew louder. Her breath hitched as sobs racked her body. Not wanting anyone to hear her, she grabbed her shawl and tiptoed outside, slipping into the dark garden behind the school. She dropped onto a stone bench, pulled her knees to her chest, and wept bitterly. The past weeks had been the hardest of her life. Learning to sew at night, struggling with the competition's pressure, enduring Naomi's stunts, and still carrying the weight of her family's rejection. And now, after all that, she was sure she would lose. Why am I even trying? She whispered to herself. A soft crunch of footsteps made her jerk her head up. She wiped her tears hastily, her body going rigid with fear. The shadows shifted, and then a familiar voice broke the silence. Why are you crying, Amelia? Her breath caught. It was Adrian, the senator's son. She scrambled to her feet, her heart pounding. He had always been kind to her, always encouraged her, but she still feared him, feared anyone who showed her kindness, because she wasn't used to it. She stammered, stepping back. Adrian sighed, stepping closer but keeping a respectful distance. In his hands, he held a small wrapped package. I was looking for you, he said softly. I know tomorrow is the final competition, and I wanted to give you something. She frowned in confusion as he extended the package toward her. Hesitantly, she reached for it. Her fingers shook as she unwrapped it, revealing a pair of stunning shoes. Elegant silver heels, the kind a princess would wear. Along with them were delicate bracelets, a hairpiece adorned with tiny crystals, and a set of colognes that smelled heavenly. Amelia gasped, her throat tightening. Why? She whispered. Because, Adrian said gently, you are going to walk onto that stage tomorrow and shock the world. She shook her head violently, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. No, I won't. I'm ugly. Fat. Clumsy. Everyone knows it. I can't. Stop that, Adrian said firmly. Stop calling yourself those names. You are strong, Amelia. You are talented. You are beautiful in ways you don't even realize yet. She clenched the fabric of her dress, sobs choking her. No one had ever spoken to her like this. No one had ever seen her like this. Adrian smiled warmly. Wear this tomorrow. When you walk out in your wedding gown, wear these shoes. Hold your head high. And remember, you belong there just as much as anyone else. She nodded weakly, clutching the gifts to her chest. Adrian watched her for a moment, then softly added, and Amelia. She looked up. I'll be in the front row, cheering for you. Then he turned and walked away, leaving her standing in the garden, stunned. The morning of destiny. Amelia barely slept. The old woman's words from weeks ago echoed in her mind. You will be the best among them all. For the first time, she let herself believe it. At dawn, she got up, bathed, and carefully dressed. She held the shoes Adrian gave her, running her fingers over them. Could it be true? Could I really win? Then she remembered her family. Would they even come? With hesitant steps, she made her way to her aunt's house. Aunt Martha's last insult. As expected, they laughed at her. Win, her cousin sneered. You think you can win? Her aunt scoffed, arms folded. Instead of dreaming, why not go to the market and sell pepper? At least that suits your kind. Laughter erupted in the room. Amelia's hands trembled. Please, she said softly. Just come and see. Her aunt rolled her eyes. We have better things to do. Defeated, Amelia turned to leave, tears burning her eyes. What she didn't know was that they would come. Not to support her, but to see her fail. The competition hall was packed. Judges, fashion designers, reporters, everyone was there. One by one, the contestants showcased their designs. The hall buzzed with excitement. Then it was time for the wedding dress reveal. Amelia stepped onto the stage. Gasps filled the room. She wore the most breathtaking wedding gown the competition had ever seen. It wasn't just beautiful, it was perfection. The judges whispered among themselves. The audience erupted in cheers. Adrian, seated in the front, stood up and clapped the loudest. Her aunt and cousins, hidden in the crowd, stared in shock. Did she really make that? Her biggest rival, Naomi, sat frozen. The girl she had tormented, bullied, and ridiculed had just outshone them all. And then, the final moment. The head judge stepped forward with a microphone. And the winner of this year's Fashion Star competition is... The hall went silent. Amelia Johnson. The room exploded. Amelia fell to her knees, sobbing. She had won. 15 million. A brand new car. A fully equipped fashion house. She had won. And then, before she could process it all, Adrian rushed onto the stage. To everyone's shock, he knelt before her. The crowd gasped. Amelia, he said, his voice filled with admiration, I've never met anyone like you. Your heart, your strength, your kindness, I love everything about you. Tears streamed down her face. Will you marry me? The hall erupted in cheers. Her aunt and cousins watched in utter disbelief. Naomi, her rival, stormed out in rage. Amelia's hands trembled as she covered her mouth. This couldn't be real. But it was. With a shaky breath, she nodded. Why yes. The audience screamed in joy. Adrian pulled her into an embrace as cameras flashed, the world watching. The sun rose with a golden glow over the city. The streets of London buzzed with excitement. It was the wedding day of Amelia Johnson, the once ridiculed, rejected, and humiliated girl who had now become a queen. Her wedding was the talk of the town. The newspapers, television channels, and social media couldn't stop talking about it. The biggest wedding of the year. From rags to royalty, the inspiring love story of Amelia and Adrian. She was once bullied and fat-shamed, now she's the most celebrated bride in the city. Everywhere, people admired her story. She had fought battles, cried endless nights, endured mockery and pain, but now, she was victorious. The massive cathedral where the wedding was held was decorated with thousands of white and gold roses. The chandeliers sparkled like diamonds, and the red carpet leading to the altar stretched long and wide, fit for royalty. As Amelia stepped out of the limousine, gasps filled the air. Her wedding gown, designed by herself, was a masterpiece. A stunning, lace-embroidered gown that hugged her plus-size body beautifully, making her look like an angel descended from heaven. Her hair, once messy and ignored, was now styled into a royal updo, adorned with delicate pearls and diamonds. She radiated confidence. She walked towards the cathedral, her heart beating fast. And then she saw them, her aunt and cousins. They stood among the crowd, staring in disbelief. They had laughed at her, insulted her, told her she was nothing. But now, they watched as the entire city gathered to celebrate her. Their faces were pale with shock, their mouths slightly open, as if unable to believe what they were witnessing. She looked at them, but there was no bitterness in her heart. Instead, there was pride. Because despite everything, she had won. As she reached the entrance of the cathedral, Adrian stood at the altar, watching her with nothing but love in his eyes. "I can't believe this is happening," she whispered as her hands trembled. Her fashion instructor, the one who had always believed in her, gently squeezed her hand. "Believe it, Amelia. You earned this." And with that, she took her final steps toward forever. 2 days before the wedding, Amelia did something that shocked everyone. She returned to her old-fashioned school. The very place where she had been humiliated, mocked, and treated as worthless. The students stared in shock as she walked into the building, taller, prouder, more confident than ever. And right there, sitting in a corner, was Naomi. The girl who had hated her the most. The girl who had made her life unbearable, laughed at her, and wanted her to fail. Naomi looked up, and when she saw Amelia, her face turned white. She expected Amelia to mock her, to humiliate her, to remind her of all the terrible things she had done. But instead, Amelia smiled and stretched out an envelope. "Here," Amelia said softly. Naomi hesitated before taking it. Her hands shook as she opened it, and inside was money. A huge amount. Her eyes widened in shock. What is this?" Amelia smiled. "A gift." Naomi's mouth opened, but no words came out. "You hurt me," Amelia said, her voice gentle. "But you also made me strong. And I've learned that there's nothing greater than kindness." Tears welled up in Naomi's eyes. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. "Because once upon a time," Amelia said, "I was just like you, lost, insecure, and trying to prove something. But I don't need to prove anything anymore. I just want to help others." Naomi broke down in tears. And as Amelia walked away, she knew she had done the right thing. Because true victory isn't just about winning. It's about forgiving. Months passed after her wedding, and Amelia's life transformed beyond anything she had ever imagined. She completed her studies in fashion and opened one of the biggest fashion houses in the country. Her brand, Amelia Couture, became a household name. Rich celebrities, high-profile figures, and even royals lined up for her designs. But Amelia didn't just focus on her success, she gave back. She opened a foundation for plus-size women, offering free counseling, support, and confidence-building programs. She made it her mission to help those who had once felt like her. "You are beautiful. You are worthy. You deserve love and happiness." These became the messages of her foundation. And the world celebrated her. Her story was published in newspapers, her speeches went viral, and people from all over the world looked up to her. She had turned her pain into purpose. And nothing was more beautiful than that. Adrian loved her. Not just for her beauty, not just for her success, but for who she was. He adored her with every fiber of his being, and never let a day pass without showing it. Adrian adored her. Every single day, he reminded her how precious she was. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me," he would whisper as they lay in bed at night. "I love you more than words can say." And then one morning, Amelia woke up feeling different. Nausea. Dizziness. Strange cravings. She took a test. And when she saw the 2 lines, she fell to her knees in shock. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. Tears streamed down her face. The girl who had once been called ugly and worthless was now about to become a mother. She told Adrian that night, and he lifted her off the ground, spinning her around. "We are having a baby." The house was filled with laughter, joy, and excitement. One evening, as Amelia sat on the balcony, her baby bump resting beneath her hands, Adrian sat beside her. She gazed at the stars, lost in thought. "What are you thinking about?" Adrian asked softly. She smiled, tears filling her eyes. "How far I've come." She took a deep breath and began to tell him everything. Her childhood. Her pain. The nights she cried herself to sleep. The times she wanted to give up. And how, in the middle of all that darkness, he had found her. "You saw something in me, Adrian, when no one else did." He kissed her forehead. "Because you were always special. The world just needed to see it." Tears streamed down her face. "Thank you for loving me." Adrian placed his hands on her belly, feeling the life growing inside. "Our child will know your story, Amelia. The world will never forget who you are." And in that moment, as she sat with her husband and unborn child, Amelia knew. She had won. Not just in fashion. Not just in success. Not just in love. But in life entirely.